Hi everyone, and welcome to my second video that takes you through the second paper 2H of set 1. This paper allows you to use a calculator, so please do use a calculator on every question that needs one. You don't get more marks for not using a calculator. All that happens is you take more time to do the questions, you make more mistakes, and you run out of time that you could use to answer questions. So please do use a calculator. When you're using these videos and the word solutions, please use them in the following way if you're at home. Don't simply copy from one booklet to the other. You can access this help booklet at any time, so there's no value in copying just the answers in there. You've got the answers already at any time. What you're trying to do is understand how to get the answers yourself, and the best way to do that is this. When you come to a question that you find difficult, put your booklet to one side, close it up, don't copy anything, and just focus on trying to understand. Look at the word solutions and listen to my video and try and understand how to do the question yourself. Once you've done that, stop the video, open up your booklet, and you try and do it in the same way. And keep on doing that until you get it. If after that you're still not sure, then ask me, I'll help you at any time. But please, please, please don't copy, that doesn't really help at all. Okay, lecture over, let's get on with the questions. So question 1, he goes to the India from the UK every year. We've got two exchange rates, and in 2010 he changed £600 into rupees, and then we want to find out how many pounds he had to change into rupees in 2012 to get the same number as he did in 2010. Okay, well, first of all, he changes £600 into rupees, and every pound is 67.1 rupees in 2010. So 67.1 is £1 multiplied by 600, and you get 40,260 rupees, and that's what he gets from £600 in 2010. In 2012, the exchange rate is £1 is 82.5 rupees. So you can see he's getting more rupees for his money now, which should mean, if we do it right, that he doesn't have to pay as many pounds to get the same number of rupees. Well, in 2012, 82.5 rupees makes a pound. So if we divide this amount of rupees he had before by 82.5, we get 488, and lo and behold, it's less than 600, so we know we've done it right. £488 is what he needs, and he needs less money because he gets more rupees for his pound in 2012. Okay, let's look at the next question. Okay, he wants to buy some cakes and some sausage rolls. The cakes are sold in boxes. There are 12 cakes in each box. Sausage rolls are sold in packs. There are 8 sausage rolls in each pack. He wants to buy more than 60 cakes and more than 60 sausage rolls, and he wants to buy exactly the same number of cakes as sausage rolls. Okay, so basically what this is a long-winded way of us trying to find out what the lowest common multiple of 12 and 8 is. 12 because that's how many cakes are in a box, and 8 because that's how many sausage rolls are in each pack. Okay, so we want to find the lowest number that both 12 and 8 go into. And you can see from the working out here that the number is 72. 72 is the smallest number that 12 and 8 go into. Okay, so if he buys 72, then he needs 6 boxes of 12, because 12 times 6 is 72, and each of those costs £2.50, so that will be 15. And he needs 9 boxes of 8 to make 72, and each box costs £1.20, so £9 times £1.20 gives you £10.80, and then you add those two together and that gives you your total amount. So here you've got right angle triangle, and you're going to calculate the length of BC, so you know that that's going to be a Pythagoras question because no angle is involved. You don't need to find an angle, you don't have any knowledge of what the angles are. It's all about calculating sides, so it's Pythagoras. So here's your formula: a squared equals b squared plus c squared, and then you put in the numbers: 6 squared plus 9 squared, add it together 117, and you square root it and you get 10.81665. Now you will get 2 marks for doing that part there, okay, but we've got, let me just check, 3 marks for doing this question. And the third mark comes from giving your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Now make sure you don't round it off to 3 decimal places. That's not what's asked. 3 significant figures. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to round here. The 1 is the first digit we're getting rid of, and so it just rounds to 10.8. Next question. Okay, we've got a scatter graph, got some information about cars, the maximum speed and the time it takes to go from 0 miles an hour to 60. What type of correlation does the scatter graph show? It shows negative correlation because the line slopes down. Be careful, negative correlation and no correlation aren't the same thing. A correlation is a connection. Okay, so no correlation means no connection. How fast does your car go and how big is your house? Probably no correlation. Okay, how tall you are and how big is your house? Probably no correlation. All right, but here we've got a negative correlation because the faster the car is, the less time it takes to go from 0 to 60. Then the time the car takes to go from 0 to 60 is 11 seconds. Estimate the maximum speed. Okay, so we find 11 seconds on the time. Go up to the line that we should draw a line of best fit, and draw it across, and you get the speed, and the speed is down here 122 miles per hour. You're allowed some leeway. Okay, it doesn't have to be exactly 122, but I really would recommend you draw it in a line of best fit. The line of best fit is one that's just drawn by eye and goes roughly through the middle of the dots. Okay, just draw it by eye. Good idea to draw it. Okay, the town's got 3 car parks. South car park has got X spaces, North car park has 48 more spaces than South car park, and Central 4 times as many. Right, what I recommend you do is do this what's done here. Actually write out South, North, Central. Okay, South is X. North is 48 more than X, so it's 48 add X, or X add 48. And Central is 4 times as many as South, so that would be 4 lots of that, 4X. Then it says the total number of spaces in South car park and Central car park is more than twice the number of spaces in North car park. So South car park and Central combined is more than twice the number of spaces of North. Okay, so we've got an inequality. So just get in there gets you a mark. That gets you a mark. Do what you can. Now let's simplify it. X plus 4x is 5x. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times 48 is 96. Okay, treat this now just like you would do an equation. Solve it in the same way. Take 2x from both sides. You get 3x is bigger than 96. Divide both sides by 3. You get x is bigger than 32. Okay, so the least possible number of spaces in South car park is 33. Why? Because it's got to be bigger than 32, and it's got to be a whole number. Okay, for 1 mark for that. So you can see where the marks are being awarded. Okay, 5 marks for this particular question. Okay, do what you can. Even if you manage to do that, you'll get a mark. Doing that, you'll get a mark. Do what you can do. Same kind of idea here. Okay, the perimeter of the 2 shapes are the same. So what is the perimeter of the rectangle? X, 3x plus 4, add 3x plus 4, add 4x, add 4x. There's your rectangle. What about your trapezium? That, add that, add that, add that. Add it together. Okay, you get a mark for that. Then simplify it. Okay, gather the x's together, gather the numbers together. 14x plus 8 equals 18x minus 6. Now solve it. Take 14x from both sides, and you get 8 equals 4x minus 6. Add 6 to both sides, giving you 14 equals 4x. We did that so that we got the numbers on one side and the letters on the other. Now divide both sides by 4, and we get that x must be 3.5. Get a mark from that. See how these marks are being awarded here. Okay, you don't have to see it through to the end to get marks. Get what you can. Now we know that x is 3.5. We can go back to this rectangle and work out what the length and the width would be. The width is 4x, and we've just worked out it's 3.5. So 4 times 3.5 is 14. The length is 3x plus 4, and we've just worked out that the x is 3.5. So it's 3 lots of 3.5 plus 4, which is 14.5. Okay, and 1 mark for each of those. Okay, we've got a tree diagram now looking at the probabilities, and we've got probability of minor damage is 0.55, probability of severe damage is 0.45. So when it bursts, we get 0.55 and 0.45 here. And don't forget, these numbers here add up to make 1. When the damage is minor, the probability that assurance claim is made is 0.22, so that goes there. And when the damage is severe, the probability of the assurance claim is made is 0.74. So make sure you put these numbers here in the right place. Okay. Now, if the 0.22 that the insurance claim is made, then 0.78 is the fact that no claim is made. If 0.74 is the probability that a claim is made when it's severe, then 0.26 will be the probability that no claim is made. So these two numbers have to add up to make 1, and these two numbers have to add up to make 1. So can you see that, look, before you've done anything, just by completing that decision tree, this tree diagram, you've got yourself 2 marks, just by reading the question, taking the information and putting it in the right place. Okay, what does the rest of the question say? The insurance company uses the information, in the decision tree to decide whether they need to increase their charges for insurance. If the probability that the insurance claim for damage will be made is greater than 50%, the insurance company will increase their charges for insurance. Will the insurance company increase their charges? Okay, so we need to work out what the probability of someone making a claim is. And if it's bigger than 50%, then we're going to say yes. Okay, so what's the chance? Well, they're either going to have a minor damage and claim, or they'll have severe damage and claim. And to find the probabilities of those two things happening, we multiply. So probability that it's minor is 0.55, and the probability that we claim when it's minor is 0.22. So 0.55 times 0.22 gives me that number there. That's the probability that we have a minor accident and we claim. And 0.45 times 0.74 multiplied together gives us 0.333, which is the probability that we have a severe accident and we claim. So we're going to claim either when we have a minor or a severe accident. So these probabilities now get added together and we get 0.454, which is less than 50%. Okay, they're only going to increase their charges if the probability is greater than 50%. So no is the answer. Once again, look at all these marks that we can get. Get what you can. Oops. Okay. Whoops. Excuse me. Right. So here we have a simultaneous equation, and you can see that you've got the same amount of x here as you have here. And what we're trying to do is get rid of one of these letters, okay, and get an equation that just involves one letter. So here, because we've got the same amount of x, we can subtract equation 2 away from equation 1. But we've got to be careful because we've got a negative number here, and we're going to be subtracting a negative number. Look, 2x take away x is nothing. That's why we did it. 2y take away minus y, okay, is going to be 3, because taking away a negative is positive. So we get 3y on this side. 3 take away 6 is minus 3. So by taking that away from that, we got nothing. Take that away from that, we got 3y. Take that away from that, you got minus 3. And we get an equation that's only got y in it. That's what we were trying to do. Get an equation that's just got x or just got y. If 3y is minus 3, then y is minus 1. And now we've worked out that y is minus 1. We can put this into one of these equations, it doesn't matter which one, and work out what x is. So x minus y is 6, and y is minus 1. So x minus 1 is 6, and so x must be 5. Okay. Once again, this is something that we might need to revise together, so we can do this together in a class later on. All right. If that's not helpful, I can do it after school on Wednesday with you. Colin, Dave and Emma share some money. Colin gets 3/10 of the money. Emma and Dave share the rest of the money in the ratio 3:2. Okay, well, if Emma gets, or Colin gets 3/10 of the money, then Emma and Dave are going to have to share the remaining 7/10 together. And we've got to share this in the ratio 3 to 5. Okay, now you could change that into a percentage if you wanted to, but if you wanted to cut 7/10 into 5 pieces, then each piece would be 7/50. Okay, you cut a tenth into 5 pieces, it's a 50th. So share that by 5, gives you 7/50, and then we would give to Dave. Dave is going to get 2 of those shares, so it's 2 lots of 7/50, and so it's 14/50. What you could also do is you could do it by percentages instead. Okay, if you do it by percentages, make sure that you then change it back into a fraction afterwards. Moving down, the nth term of a sequence is n squared plus 4, and Alex says the nth term of a sequence is always a prime number when n is an odd number. Alex is wrong. Give an example to show that Alex is wrong. So all you need to do is find an odd number that when we put it into this formula, it makes a number that's not a prime number. So here we go. If n is 1, 1 squared is 1 plus 4 is 5. That's prime. Okay, it's worked. N is 3, the next odd number. 3 squared is 9 plus 4, 13. That's prime. N is 5, 5 squared, 25 plus 4, 29. That's prime. 7 squared is 49 plus 4, 53. It's prime. Next odd number is 9. 9 squared is 81 plus 4 is 85. Not prime. It ends in 5, so you know it's in the 5 times table. So you basically just keep on going with the odd numbers until you find an answer, which in this case was 85, that isn't prime. Okay, so fairly simple, bit of work, but fairly simple, nice, easy 2 marks. Question 11, we have a question involving the cosine rule. So the rule for the cosine rule is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. So it's a bit like a special version of Pythagoras' rule. That's Pythagoras' rule there, with a little bit extra when the triangle isn't a right angled triangle. And basically just put the numbers into the formula, rearrange it until you get that minus 0.25 is cos A, and you do inverse cos and you get 104.4775, and that's your angle. We'll go on to this together as a group and do these questions very shortly, but you can see it's a nice easy 3 marks once you know what the formula is. Once again, there's a formula for finding the area of a triangle apart from base times height, which is half BC sine A, which is basically half of the 2 sides multiplied together, multiplied by the sine of the angle in between. So here is B, here is C, here's BC, and here's A. Okay, use this formula, half BC sine A. So B is 2.7, C is 1.8, and the A is the angle you've just worked out, 104.5, and that gives you your area. In this question, we've got to work out what are called the upper and lower bounds of each measurement. Now, D is 190 correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, it's written to 3 significant figures now, so the biggest it could possibly be would be 190.5, and the lower bound is 189.5. So this is the biggest and the smallest a number could possibly be if it's rounded to 190 to 3 significant figures. And if this number is 25.7 to 1 decimal point, then the biggest it could possibly be would be 25.75, and the smallest it could possibly be, the lower bound, would be 25.65. So the biggest this calculation could possibly be would be when this number is as big as possible and this number is as small as possible. So it goes into it as many times as possible. So you take the biggest for D, 190.5, and divide it by the smallest for F. Okay, and you get that answer. And the lower bound is going to be that divided by that, when that is the smallest it could be and that is the biggest it could possibly be. Okay, and it says by considering bound, work out the value of C to a suitable degree of accuracy. Well, you can see that both of these numbers are 7.4 to 1 decimal place, so 7.4 is a suitable degree of accuracy. Okay, next question. So you need to know the formulas for density and mass and volume, but is related to you in this formula triangle, just like speed and time and distance. And if you're not quite sure, just look at the units. Density is mass divided by volume. Cover that up. Density is mass divided by volume. You get the formula from the units it tells you. So we've got 140 grams of liquid A and 128 grams of liquid B are mixed to make liquid C. Work out the density of liquid C. Okay, well, first of all, we need to know what the volume and the mass is going to be. Well, the mass is going to be pretty easy because we're mixing 140 grams of A with 128 grams of B. So the mass of C is going to be these two added together. But we need to know how much space they take up. So first of all, we need to find out what the volume of A is. We know it's got a density of 0.7 grams per cubic centimetre, and we've got 140 grams. So to work out the volume, cover that up, mass divided by density tells us that we've got 200 cubic centimetres of A. Doing the same thing for B, 128 divided by 1.6, I beg your pardon, gives us 80. So the total volume is 200 plus 80, 280. Okay, so the density of the mixture is the total mass, 268, divided by the total volume, 280, which gives us this. A last minute double check, we're mixing these two ingredients together, and so the combined density would need to be somewhere in between these two, and it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, when we do this, we just got to remember the language we've got. So f of x is 2x plus 5. So f of 3 just basically means we put 3 where we see x. 2 times 3 plus 5 is 11. Easy mark. To do the inverse function, okay, we just work backwards. So if y equals 2x plus 5, we make x the subject of the formula. Take 5 to the other side and divide by 2. So we get y equals x minus 5 over 2. So this is the inverse function. It undoes what this one does. G is the function x squared minus 25. Find g of minus 3. So we put minus 3 into here and we square it and we subtract 25. Remember, it's minus 3 that is squared, not the negative of 3 squared. So it's 9, take 25, minus 16. Okay, in this question, we've got to write down an expression for g of f of x. So basically what that means is we put x into f, and whatever comes out gets put into g. So when we put x into f, 2x plus 5 comes out, and that then goes into g, which means we square this and subtract 25. Okay, whatever this is goes into g, it gets squared, and we subtract 25. So it's 2x plus 5 squared, take 25. Work out what 2x plus 5 is, squared, two brackets multiplied together, simplify it, you get 4x squared plus 20x. Look, 2 marks here. Have a go. Have a go at doing it. Do some simplification. Okay. Then it says, solve g of f of x equals 0. Well, this is g of f of x. When's it going to be 0? Well, we can see one example already. X is 0. If that was 0 and that was 0, the whole lot would be 0. Let's try and solve it properly. Factorize it. I can see that 4x goes into both of these. 4 goes into 4 and 20, and x goes into that, and x goes into that. So they both share a factor of 4x. 4x times x gives me x squared. 4x times 5 gives me 20x. So these two things are multiplied together and make an answer of 0. So to make that happen, either this bit has got to be 0, which means that x is 0, or this bit has got to be 0, which means that x is minus 5. Okay. Okay, now hopefully if you did the question last on the last paper and saw the video on the last paper, you'll be consoled by that and helped by that, because this question is pretty much the same kind of question. He's got 20 sweets in a bag. 5 are orange, 7 are red, 8 are yellow. He's going to take 2 sweets from the bag, and we want to work out the probability the sweets will not be the same colour. So here are your probabilities of getting an orange, red or yellow on the first draw. Now, he is going to take a second sweet. Okay, so if the first sweet is orange, the second sweet, okay, has got a less chance of being orange now because there's only 4 remaining in the bag. Okay, in the same way, you've got a 7 out of 20 chance of getting a red bead, a red sweet on the first go. But if it's red, you've only got a 6 chance out of, where's it gone? 6, here we go. 6 out of 19 chance of it being red in the second go. Okay, because you've only got 6 reds left. Okay, here you've got a 7 out of 19 chance because the first one was yellow. So if it was yellow, you've still got 7 reds in the bag. So the probability of red here is different from the probability of red here because it depends what you got with your first sweet. But just like before with those sandwiches, you find the probability of 2 things happening by multiplying the individual probabilities. So orange followed by orange is simply that probability multiplied by that probability. And if you want to find out the probability that the sweets will not be the same colour, the easiest thing to do is work out the probability that they are the same colour and then take it away from 1. So how could they be the same colour? You could have 2 reds, 5/20 times 4/19, or 2 oranges. 5/20 times 4/19 is your probability of 2 oranges. The chance of it being 2 reds would be this one times this one, 7/20 times 6/19. Here we go. And then the chance of it being 2 yellows is 8/20 times 7/19. And here you go. So this here is the combined probability of 2 oranges or 2 reds or 2 yellows. Add that together and you get together the combined probability that they are the same. Take that away from 1 and you get the probability that they are different, because the 2 sweets are either going to be the same or they're different. All right, and that's an easy way of doing it. You could do it the other way, but it's a lot more work. All right, once again, 4 marks for doing this. So even setting out a tree diagram like that, look, 2 marks. Do something. Okay, do it and see how these questions are starting to be similar. Okay, after a while of doing lots of these booklets, you'll notice that the questions repeat. They're very, very similar. 16. P is inversely proportional to the square of x, given that x is 5 when p is 6. Find the value of p when x is 8. Right, so once again, okay, that 3-step question. First of all, step 1. Step 1. Here's the relationship between p and the 2 letters. Step 2. They tell you what the 2 letters are at the same time. Step 3. Find one letter when they tell you the other one. So here we go. First of all, p is proportional to 1 over x squared because it says inversely proportional. That's 1 over x squared. Do that. P equals k over x squared. Just get a mark for doing that. P equals k over x squared. Now, work out what k must be from the information they give you. When x is 5, p is 6. So put 6 there and 5 there. Okay, so 6 is equal to k divided by 5 squared, so k must be 150, 6 times 25. So now we know what the formula is. P is equal to 150, that's what k is now, over x squared. Okay, and it says find the value of p when x is 8. So it's 150 divided by 8 squared, which gives us this number here. And then it says round it off to 2 decimal places. So get 1 more mark for doing that. So just doing that gets you 2 marks. Don't throw away an easy 1 marker by not rounding it off. Round this number to 2 decimal places. You're allowed to use a calculator, so you can use a calculator here. Fred is making 2 rectangular flower beds. The dimensions of the larger rectangle will be 3 times the dimensions of the smaller rectangle. There's going to be the same depth of soil in each flower bed. So the scale factor is 3. So the lengths are 3 times bigger. That means the area will be 3 times 3 times bigger. If you think about it, if you had a 1 by 1 square and you make the lengths 3 times bigger, it now becomes a 3 times by 3 square, and the area is 9. So the area is now 9 compared to the original area of 1. The area has gone up 9 times. Okay, so the depth of the soil is still the same. That's not 3 times bigger. So basically, you're going to need 9 times as much soil as the original one. 9 lots of 180, 1,620. Okay, so question 18 talks about the histogram giving information about the speeds in kilometers per hour of some cars on a road. Going up on the vertical axis, we've got what's called the frequency density, and going along here is the speed. And the thing to remember about a histogram is it is the area that is the frequency. It says work out an estimate for the median speed. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. You must show all your working. Now, the first thing I would do is draw out a table like has been drawn out below. And you get some information off of this graph. So the first thing we need to know is what the speeds are. So the speed goes from 52 up to 55. That's the first bar. The next one goes from 55 up to 62.5. That's the next bar, and so on. So these here is basically the different groups or the different bars we've got. So 1, 2, 3, 4 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4 things here, or rows in our table. The class width is basically the width of the bar. Okay, so from 52.5 up to 55 gives me a width of 2.5. The difference between 55 and 62.5 is 7.5. That's the width of this particular bar here. The height of the bar is going to be the frequency density. So this bar is 3.8 high, and this one is 4.7 high, and so on. So reading off the heights of these bars tells you the frequency density. And the total frequency is the area of each of these bars, and you can find that by multiplying the width of the bar with the height of the bar to give you the frequency. Adding up all the areas of each of those 4 bars gives you 69.25. Remember, this is an estimate, so your answer might not agree exactly with mine. Okay, but that will give you the total frequency. Now we want the median, so that's halfway along, so we divide that by 2 and we get 34.625. So that's the person, the 34th, 35th kind of person we want to know, or car, and we want to know what speed they were going. Well, the first thing to do is to find out where they are along this axis. Well, if we take away 9.5, okay, which is the area in here, okay, we've still got 25.125. So we want to find out where along here that would be. 25.125 is what is left of the people. Now, the height of this bar is 47.5. So if we imagine that the area was 25.125 and it had a height of 4.7, then where would it come along here? Well, if we divide those two numbers, we get 5.3. So 5.3 further along from here is going to be the speed of our median person. 5.3 added to 555, which is the speed there, okay, is going to give us 60.34 miles an hour, or 60.3 miles an hour. That's pretty tricky, okay, but you could at least draw a table out and put this information in and get the marks for that. And even doing that and coming up with your total frequency gets you 2 marks. The next question talks about a line to a tangent with an equation x squared plus y squared equals 45 at the point -3, 6. And the line crosses the x-axis at the point P. And now you can see what's happened here. They've actually drawn a picture to actually picture what's happening here. And I recommend you do that. So here's the point, -3, 6. It's centered on 0, 0. That's the equation of the circle. And we want to find out what the equation of this line is so we can work out what this point here is. Well, the first thing to do is to work out what the gradient of this line is. Okay? Because we want to know what the gradient of this is, but these two lines are at right angles. Now, as we go from here to here, our change in y is going from 6 down to 0, and our change in x is going from -3 to 0. Okay, so when we divide those two changes, 6 divided by minus 3, we get minus 2. A quick double check, this line is sloping downwards and we get a gradient of negative 2. That's making sense. Now two lines, when they're at right angles to each other, their gradients multiply together to make minus 1. So if this line has got a gradient of minus 2, what would we multiply minus 2 by to make minus 1? Answer, a half. So the gradient of this line has got, beg your pardon, the gradient of this line is a half. A quick double check, it's not as steep as this one is sloping down. As we go from left to right, it's a positive gradient, so a half makes sense to me. Now the equation of any straight line is y equals mx plus c. And we've just worked out what the m is, it's half. So we know that the line is going to be y equals half x plus something. And we need to find out what the something is going to be. Well, we know that the line crosses through this point here, minus 3, 6. And that tells us that when x is minus 3, y is 6. So we're going to put in y, which is 6, equals half of x minus 3 plus c. And c needs to make this work. So half of minus 3 is minus 3 over 2. Okay, and then take that to the other side, work it all through, and you get that c is 7.5. Okay, now we know that the c bit is 7.5. We've got y equals half x plus 7.5, and that is the equation of our line. Okay, now if that is the equation of the line, when will this line cross here? Well, it crosses here when the y value is 0. So this needs to make 0. Okay, so if half x plus 7.5 is 0, then half x must be minus 7.5 and the whole of x must be minus 15. So the equation, or beg your pardon, the coordinate of that point is going to be minus 15, that's what x is, 0, that's what y is. Okay. Now, that was the last question on the sheet. It was an A-star question, really difficult, pretty tricky rather, but there's parts of it that you can do. Okay, so once again, if you could work out the gradient, you've got yourself a mark. Get marks from anywhere. I hope that was helpful to you. And if not, of course, you know you can always ask me anyhow. All right, cheers everyone. Thank you.